Hey guys, I hope everyone's doing well out there. This is going to be a video on the seductive nature of the occult. The way that we see it portrayed in these things is really just a reflection of what the occult actually is. If I had to explain the occult in one word, it would be deception. Now, I'm not going to give my entire testimony here today, mostly because God has shown me that it's really not the time to give my testimony yet. But I will tell you that I had an experience when I was a teenager where I could no longer deny the existence of God because of it. And I was very much indwelled with the Holy Spirit. I believe I was indwelled with the Holy Spirit before that, actually. I had an experience when I was a teenager where I could no longer deny the existence of God because of it. And I was very much indwelled with the Holy Spirit. I believe I was indwelled with the Holy Spirit before that, actually.
I searched the Eastern mysticism. I looked into the occult. I began to practice the occult. And really that brought me to the point where I got on my knees. I got on my knees. And I said, God, if you are there, I meant it with all of my heart for the first time ever in my life. I said, God, if you are there, you know the answers. Only you know the answers, not me, not me. I can't find any answers that I can even believe. Please, if you are there, if you're truly there, please show me the truth. Please reveal some of what life is about. Reveal to me that you are there. Reveal to me that the spiritual world exists. I didn't even think it was possible to find out if the spiritual world exists whilst in this life. And this was really my last shot, my last reaching out, my final call and cry from the bottom of my heart that, God, if you are there, please show me. Because if you're God, you are powerful enough to show me, by far. And I think it's that moment of humility in recognizing that I didn't know any answers of my own self. For me, breaking down on my knees was the first time that I really... Wow. Well, I can't even describe what happened after that, because I started to realize things and I started to find answers that absolutely blew my mind through other truthers on YouTube, through other channels, through other ministries, but also on a spiritual level of things that I would never normally have connected together.
And God actually used a lot of my weaknesses to take me into the occult.
God actually used a lot of my weaknesses to take me into the occult
And then to bring me back out of it. And I believe that he did it for exactly this reason, so that I could expose it. Even though I believed in God, I believed in Jesus, I called myself a Christian, I didn't really understand God's will very well, and I hadn't sought these things out for myself. So when I say that God used my weaknesses to bring me into the occult and to bring me through it and to test my will and bring me back to Him, that was really all His doing. And one of the weaknesses that He used was my ignorance of His word. And one of the weaknesses that He used was my ignorance of His word.
and one of the weaknesses that he used was my ignorance of his word.
This is actually a picture of some of the cards from the tarot deck that I used to read. Now, this is over a decade ago that I read tarot. This is the Thoth Tarot deck. It was designed by Aleister Crowley himself. really rather go right to the meat of this topic and get at Doc Marquis. So for anyone who's not familiar with Doc Marquis is a Satanist. Okay, so that's, yes, we're getting our religious ideas about Christianity and Christian practices and holidays from Doc Marquis, a Satanist. So that should be the first red flag to you. Now, Doc actually claims that he's an ex-Satanist, to be fair. So I don't know if that's actually true, and I'm going to bring up evidence to support my theory that he is not an ex-Satanist, that he is a real Satanist, and that he has scared you guys away from taking part in Christmas and Easter. Okay, so it's no surprise that the occult would want to do that. This is why it's so important as a Christian to be into your spiritual warfare. Because the occultists are not really our enemies, the spirits behind them are.
The occultists are not really our enemies.
So I've seen a whole lot of the people who I knew who channeled also get possessed. And I mean, I've sat face to face with these people while they were possessed, had conversations with them, and ultimately I began doing exorcisms because there was really nothing else to do. I was pretty much forced into doing it. I really had no idea how to do it at first, other than to invoke the power of Jesus Christ. So I would quickly invoke the power of Jesus Christ. I would cause the demon to tell me its name, and then I would use the name against it, and I would command it out of the person. And sometimes this took a while, but it always worked. I actually did this probably dozens of times. I'm not exactly sure, even a rough estimate of exactly how many times, but I would say maybe around 50 or 60. Not all of these demons seemed evil at the time. Some of them spoke very nicely, they would use big words, they sounded very wise and intelligent. And Jesus tells us himself that Satan can appear as an angel of light, so we need to be very wary of this. Sometimes these demonic spirits were very overtly malicious and would try to kill me, basically. And they would really freak out when I started trying to use the power of Christ on them. But other times they came and spoke to me and told me lots of, really, really crazy stuff, guys. So I'm just telling you to be extremely careful of this. I was not going out of my way to find people who were possessed. And at a certain point, I had a deck of cards that pretty much anyone who touched it other than myself would become possessed. Now, most of the people who I was friends with at that time were not Christians, and basically they didn't believe in Jesus at all. So what I quickly understood is that they really had no protection from this sort of thing. So just to illustrate that point, let's check in with our good buddy Baphomet. It seems like I can't do 3 videos in a row without showing a picture of Baphomet. So this I don't think you can tell me that this is an innocent picture, just depicting. So, yeah, anyway, sometimes I just have to throw things in just to blow people's minds open because they've been so indoctrinated by the culture. Sorry to those of you who are awake and trying not to fill your head up with garbage. Of course, if you add 2, 1, 3, 1, 3, you come out with 10. And if you reduce 10, you come back to 1. So they're always throwing this numerology in your face. And of course, there's 13, 13, and it's the day before Valentine's Day. Okay, I don't want to put every occultist under the same banner as dark pagans and Satanists and stuff. Lots of people who expose occult things on YouTube who claim to be against the occult, but they actually use stuff directly out of this book.